What's going on, everyone? Will Trubshaw and Andrew Fish here for IUSTV Sports, bringing you another recap of IU women's basketball. And this another a tough loss for the Hoosiers. It snapped a four-game win streak, falling to the number 14 Ohio State Buckeyes, 78-70. And Andrew, this was probably the grittiest game IU's had to play all year. It was close throughout the first three quarters. IU held a 54-53 lead at the end of the third. But then Ohio State kind of just took over, and it kind of fell apart. But it was an ugly game for IU. There's no sugarcoating it. What did you see today from the Hoosiers?
It was kind of interesting because in almost every win that the Hoosiers have had this season, it started off with kind of a slower paced, struggling in the first quarter. And then the second quarter, they come to life, and then they bring it through halftime and have a big third quarter and gather momentum into the fourth, and they usually have a lead by then. But tonight, it felt like, they got off to that great start. I think it was a 9-0 run to start the game, maybe 10-0 run to start the game, something like that. And it was really the best start they've had all season. And then the second quarter, Ohio State kind of got back into it. Third quarter was kind of back and forth, exchanging the lead a few times. And then towards the end of the game, I think the biggest reason why Indiana lost is just the pace that they played at. They totally played into the hands of Ohio State in that fourth quarter, playing a very slow tempo game. The referees obviously didn't help. Terry Moore was a little upset with them, but I feel like they definitely got whistle happy in that fourth quarter. There were a lot of calls, and when that happens, you have to kind of adjust the way that you're playing. And instead of going with the flow, going with the tempo of the game, Indiana tried to rush things, and it led to the most turnovers they've had all season. And I think the Hoosiers are best when they are running in transition. They have so many players on the court at all given times that can handle the basketball. It really plays in their hands to get the tempo, a high tempo, on their offensive end, and then slow things down for the other team. And tonight it felt like they just weren't able to do that, especially in the fourth quarter. It was just a little bit too slow, but there were some positives definitely. But overall, they just, they weren't able to pull out of the fourth.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned it. 17 turnovers today, season high. They shot under 60% from the free throw line, and they made one 3-pointer all night. So there were a lot of things that didn't go well for the Hoosiers. When they were at their best tonight, you're right, they were out in transition. They got the ball moving, but when they struggled, they weren't able to do that, and that happened especially in the fourth quarter when Ohio State switched to a 3-2 zone, and that really seemed to throw the Hoosiers off their game. Now, two Hoosiers that weren't off their game tonight, really no surprise. Mackenzie Holmes and Grace Berger's both having double-doubles again. Berger, 22 points. Holmes, 17 points. I mean, they've been the consistent producers for the Hoosiers all year this year. But the big problem was they didn't have any backup tonight. Ali Patberg was the third leading scorer, and she only had 9 points. When you're playing teams like Ohio State, who just came off a win over Maryland, handing Maryland its first loss in Big Ten play in 24 games, you can't have just two players scoring. You got to have a full team effort. You need something like what the Hoosiers had when they beat Northwestern this past Sunday. That's the kind of, you need a full team effort, and the Hoosiers didn't have it tonight. Why do you think that was? What went wrong for the Hoosiers there, and how did they correct it?
Well, I think a big part of it is just the lack of a flow that Indiana was able to get into an offense. It was a lot of kind of standing and watching Grace Berger dribble and trying to isolate her, and it felt like a lot of the guards got into that mode where Grace was on fire. She had a terrific game, but at the end of the day, she still needs help. She can't be the only one scoring. While Mackenzie Holmes did have a good game, I felt like she could have been used even more. She was 7 for 10 in the game. I felt like she probably should have had more, closer to 15 shots in the game. But she kind of struggled to get positioning inside, so that she didn't get the touches that we are used to seeing her getting throughout this one. And she also kind of struggled with the height. When she would get an offensive board, it seemed like she would always bring it down. They were able to strip it from her, which led to quite a few turnovers. But at the end of the day, if Indiana is going to be a Final Four or a Sweet 16 team, it's going to come down to 3-point shooting. And Indiana, they've struggled all season long with that. I thought it would get a lot better with Jalen Penn, and it still might. because obviously when you have a long drought of not playing, you're going to come in, you're going to be a little bit rusty. She definitely struggled tonight, but Ali Papberg, she needs to step up on the offensive end. She needs to step up her shooting, especially. And she's had glimpses of the Ali Papberg that we've seen in the past, but so far this season, I think that we're still kind of waiting for her to take the next step to be the player that we know that she can be. And you're going to lose close games against good teams when she doesn't play well.
Absolutely. Ali Papberg this season only averaging 12 points a game. In the last 3 games she's played, she's been held in single digits. It's been a struggle for her. You mentioned Jalen Penn, too. Second game back, 6 points tonight, back in the starting rotation after 12 points off the bench in her first game back. So all things being equal, not bad. But again, you need more, especially from scorers like Penn and Papberg, who can fill it up when they're asked to. And that Terry Morin is asking him to. So final question for you. Hoosiers have another game coming up this Sunday now. The rhythm kind of going again once again in Big Ten play. It's those games every Sunday and Thursday, it seems. They're taking on a Michigan State game. How do you avoid a letdown against a good Michigan State team, but a team that is definitely beatable and one that you need to have in order to stay in the race for the top of the Big Ten?
Yeah, no question. This Michigan State team is pretty solid, but they're a team that has struggled, especially offensively, as of recent. So I think that it's a huge game for Indiana, going on the road to East Lansing against a team that is a quality opponent, yet a winnable game, as you mentioned. It's going to be extremely important for the Indiana Hoosiers to establish some confidence offensively in that one. Play the game at their tempo, speed it up on offense, play the good defense that IU has been playing all season long. And then I think it's just going to be, again, really important to get the ball to Mackenzie Holmes early in the game to open up the floor for three-point shooters later. We're going to need to see much better performances from Jalen Penn, from Ali Papberg, from Nicole Cardano-Hillary, from Alexa Goulbe, and just continue to watch the season that Grace Berger and Mackenzie Holmes are having. I mean, those two players are two of the best players in the country. You throw in Ali Papberg, who can certainly be one of the best players in the country. You get Jalen Penn going from deep. This team could beat anybody. It just it seems like they haven't really clicked for a long stretch of this season yet. But I think that the Hoosiers can still do it.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens Sunday. Again, the Hoosiers falling to 7-2 in conference play after their 78-70 defeat at the hands of the Ohio State Buckeyes. For Andrew Fish, I'm Will Trubshaw. We'll see you next time for IUSTV Sports.